Hello everyone, my name is David. I have a story to tell you, but I'll say this right away. The story is quite scary, but don't take everything to heart. This can hardly happen in everyday life, but not in my family. Everything is different with me. Well, I won't keep you waiting. Let me get down to business right away. There are 4 of us in the family: Dad, Mom, my older sister, Veronica, and me. Veronica left a few years ago for another state because she got married. She comes to visit extremely rarely. And a couple of months ago, she surprised us with great news. She was soon going to be a mother. My mom was very happy about the news because she dreamed of becoming a grandmother. By the way, yes, our parents are quite young. They're a little over 50, but they look even younger. And all this, according to my mom, is thanks to proper nutrition and sports. You will never find fried food or a lot of flavor or alcohol in our house. My parents are obsessed with healthy food and drinking water. Technically, my sister and I have also been used to this form of childhood, but sometimes I still allow myself fast food. Yes, I do like junk food. Well, what am I even talking about? Oh yes, and so, our mother was an active person. She was everywhere at once and liked to participate in public affairs, loaded herself with worries of other people, and still managed to do her chores. I could never imagine her being alone and staying in one place. As time went on, I got older and eventually had to go to college. We all understood that moving to a different place was no joke, especially since my college was far away. Mom did not want to let me go. She always said that if she was left alone, the house would feel empty and she would be sad, but I reassured her that she was not alone, but with Dad. And she also always had something to do, so I wasn't worried about that. My father was in favor of me going away because at the ending of the day, they birthed me so that I could live my life. I quickly packed my things, kissed my parents, and got into the car. The road almost took a whole day. As soon as I arrived to another state with my friends, I was full of excitement. I could not wait to get a taste of my new adult life. Even though I was still anxious, I was extra happy with the fact that there were no parents nearby, which meant that I was finally leaving the family nest for good. Almost all other students were in the same position, and this brought us closer. I was lucky to have my childhood friend with me. His name was Ted. We were going to do the same major and even began to live together in dorms. To be honest, everything turned out to be more difficult than we had imagined. Turns out that studying in college is not all like high school. The academic pressure is bigger, and if you not want to be expelled or have your scholarship be taken away, you have to study hard. Little by little, we tried to devote more time to study. We made this a priority. When I called home, I would hear my mom cry, and I understood that she was bored, and I also missed her. But still, I believed that we all should get used to living like this. My father was at work almost all the time, and 6 months later, my mom's company was closed, and she decided to be an at-home mom. Because of her age, few places dared to hire her, and she decided that it was time for a rest and finally take up gardening, which she had long wanted to do. My sister and I did not call each other. I did not want to meddle in her affairs, and she wasn't particularly interested in me. I knew that she now had her own family. So a whole year passed. Because of the frantic schedule, I've never went home. Missed all the holidays, Christmas, and even my mom's and dad's birthdays. At first, I called regularly, messaged, and sometimes even video called. But then my calls became less frequent because I decided to take a part-time job at a local cafe. Ted and I decided to rent a small apartment not far from the school and split the rent. Our dorms were fine, but your own apartment, although rented, was still better. We both got jobs, worked in a cafe, and he washed cars. And it so happened that we spent mornings until lunchtime at school, and then were at work from the evening and late at night. I didn't get enough sleep. I was slacking a bit at school, but still submitted everything and passed all the exams. Sometimes I wanted to give up everything, but I did not forget that comfort requires investment. So I always pulled myself together and went to work. Almost a year passed in this way. I had lost count of how many times my mom called me, and I had to miss her calls. It was impossible to use the phone either at school or work, so I was inaccessible to almost anyone, not only to my mother. When the break began again, I devoted myself completely to work and doubled my paycheck. And then I got a girlfriend, and I also had to spend time with her. In short, I had not seen my parents for almost 2 years. My sister gave birth a while ago, and I found out about it accidentally. In all this time, we didn't even call once. She also did not come to visit the parents. One day, while we were at the movies with Jill, my girlfriend, I saw that my dad was calling me. I made a grumpy face and like, damn it, at the wrong time again. I didn't pick up the phone, and then I got a message. Son, call me back urgently. Your mother is... The message stopped abruptly, and at that moment, I heard my heart pounding in my temples. I ran out of the hall and began to call Dad. He picked up and was silent for a long time, and then he said that Mom was gone. But then I don't remember what happened. I probably fainted right there and there. Jill ran out to me and called an ambulance, but I quickly came to my senses. That evening, I packed my things and went home. I do not remember how long the road lasted. During the 2 years of my absence, many things had changed. I felt a lump in my throat. I didn't want to talk to anyone. Every now and then, I thought of my mother, about who she was, and hated myself for not even calling or answering her. I rushed to my house. My knees trembled at the sight of the familiar house. I opened the door and entered. My sister was sitting there with her daughter and husband. She was crying. My father was also sitting there. I went up to him and silently hugged him. And at that moment, I gave in to my emotions and burst into tears, so hard that I could not breathe. My sister had changed. We haven't seen each other in 7 years. It was such a long time. She kept saying that it was all her fault, that she did not call, didn't visit, and I realized that I did the exact same things. My father said that Mom was in the morgue. She will be brought in a few hours. There were flowers in the house, white roses, my mom's favorite. And I still could not believe that this was happening. An hour later, a car arrived with a coffin. My mom was in it. As soon as the coffin was brought into the house, I cried even more. My mother was still just as beautiful. It felt like she was asleep. I couldn't believe it. The coffin was in the middle of the living room. My sister and I went up to my mom together and again began to cry, asking for forgiveness. I said that if we were given another chance, we would never behave like that because one can only have 2 parents in their lifetime. You never know when the end will come. Maybe that's why we don't value what we have, often forgetting about those who love us more than anything. And that's why I brought you here. You don't visit any other way, my mom said, opening her eyes. My sister and I screamed in surprise. Veronica fainted. I was standing still. Mom? I said. Mom rose from the coffin in her black dress. She dusted herself off, the flowers from my hands and said, "Thank you. At least you haven't forgotten which ones I love," she said, and just stood there alive and well. When my sister was brought to her senses, my mom looked at her and said that we would not have come otherwise and that she now finally saw her granddaughter. We were a bit traumatized after that, but my mom's actions were fair. We have learned the lesson once and for all, and now we find time not only for calls, but we also visit several times a year. If you like the story, then give it a thumbs up and write us some comments. And don't forget to subscribe.